The voice message arrived at 11:47 p.m., during the most dangerous meeting of Luca Rossi's career. Around the polished mahogany table in the private room of Giordano's restaurant, 5 men sat rigid as statues. The air smelled of expensive cigars and cheaper cologne, the kind worn by men trying too hard to prove they belonged. Across from Luca, Vincent Calabresi, underboss of the Southside family, leaned back in his chair with the smug confidence of someone holding 4 aces. Territory. Negotiations. Gun shipments. The usual chess game where one wrong move meant war. Luca's phone buzzed against the table. He glanced down, ready to silence it. The screen showed the Rossi organization's encrypted group chat, the one reserved for capos and made men only. Someone had been added by mistake. The number was unfamiliar. Then he saw the blue audio file. His finger hovered over the ignore button, but something made him tap it instead. The room's tension evaporated the moment the small voice filled the silence. "Mom. Uncle Rafael hit me again. A child. Crying." The words were broken, soaked in terror. "He said he's going to hurt you. I'm scared, Mom. I'm so scared." The voice cracked on the last syllable, dissolving into sobs. Luca's world stopped. Every man at the table turned toward the sound, but Luca didn't see them anymore. He saw a different room, a different night, 16 years ago. His baby sister Julia, 14 years old, calling him from her boyfriend's apartment. "Luca, he's hurting me. Please come." He'd been too late. 30 minutes. That's all it took. 30 minutes for Marco to put her in a coma she never woke from. This child's voice. It was identical. The same trembling pitch. The same breathless fear. Welcome to Rossi Chronicles, where the most ruthless men discover their humanity in the cries of the innocent. And redemption is never clean, never easy, but always worth the fight. If you believe that even broken people deserve a second chance to do right by those who need them most, hit that subscribe button and like this video to support stories that make you feel something real. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Now, let's see how one wrong number changed 3 lives forever. "Get out." Luca's voice cut through the room like a blade. Vincent blinked. "Excuse me?" "Meeting's over. Everyone out. Now." The capos exchanged glances. "You didn't dismiss Vincent Calabresi. Not if you wanted to keep breathing." But something in Luca's expression, the absolute zero in his dark eyes, made even Vincent stand without argument. The room emptied in 45 seconds. Luca was already dialing Marco, his tech specialist, before the door fully closed. "I need a trace. Immediately." "Boss, it's almost midnight. I don't care if it's Christmas morning. I need a location on this number in the next 3 minutes, or you're finding new employment." 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Later, Marco called back. "Northwestern Memorial Hospital, emergency room entrance. The number's registered to an Isabella Santos, RN, age 28, nurse. Address is..." Luca was already moving. The December wind off Lake Michigan felt like broken glass against exposed skin. Isabella Santos pulled her daughter closer, feeling the small body shiver through the thin coat that should have been replaced 2 winters ago. Sophia's face was buried in her mother's neck, silent as always. 4 years old, and she hadn't spoken more than whispers in 8 months. Not since the night Rafael's fist had connected with Isabella's jaw while Sophia watched from the hallway. "Please, Isabella, just hear me out." Rafael Mendez stood 5 feet away, blocking the employee exit. 6'2", military posture, the kind of build that came from years of discipline and steroids. He looked clean tonight, sober. That almost made it worse. When he was drunk, at least Isabella could predict the violence. "I have a restraining order, Rafael." Her voice was steady. She'd learned not to show fear. Fear excited him. "A piece of paper." He stepped closer. The parking lot's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face. You think that protects you? I know your schedule, Isa. Every shift. Every route home. You think I can't? Step away from her. The voice came from the darkness between two parked cars. Deep. Controlled. Absolutely lethal. Rafael spun, hand moving instinctively toward his waist. Old, military reflex. But he froze when he saw the man emerging from the shadows. Luca Rossi was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black wool coat that probably cost more than Isabella's monthly rent. His dark hair was neat despite the wind, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass beneath a closely trimmed beard. But it was his eyes that made Rafael's hand drop. Dark brown, almost black, and completely empty of mercy. I said step away. Rafael's confidence flickered. This is between me and my... She's not. Yours? Luca's voice dropped lower. And you have 5 seconds to leave before I make you. Who the hell are you? Luca didn't answer. He simply looked at Rafael the way someone might examine an insect before deciding whether to crush it. Isabella felt Sophia's grip tighten around her neck, the little girl's breath coming faster. Rafael made his choice. He backed up 2 steps, hands raised in mock surrender. This isn't over, Isa. You know that, right? This isn't... Yes, Luca interrupted, quietly. It is. Something in his tone made Rafael go pale. He turned and walked quickly toward a beat-up Ford truck, throwing one last glance over his shoulder before speeding out of the parking lot. Isabella's knees nearly buckled. She'd been holding her breath without realizing it. Sophia's small hands clutched her scrub top, fists tight enough to wrinkle the fabric. Luca stepped closer, and Isabella instinctively backed against the hospital wall. I'm not going to hurt you. His voice gentled, slightly, though it still carried that underlying steel. My name is Luca Rossi. Your daughter sent a voice message to my phone by mistake. I need to know, is she safe? Isabella stared at him. Voice message. Sophia didn't speak. She hadn't spoken in... Then she remembered. This morning. Sophia had been playing with her phone while Isabella showered. She must have opened an app, pressed something. I don't understand. What message? Sophia doesn't... She stopped. Because Sophia was looking at this, stranger with wide brown eyes, not hiding her face like she did with everyone else. Luca crouched down slowly, careful, bringing himself to Sophia's eye level. Hi, sweetheart. You're very brave, you know that? Sophia didn't respond, but she didn't look away either. He straightened, turning his attention back to Isabella. That man, Rafael, he's dangerous. I can help. I don't need help. The words came automatically. She'd said them so many times they felt like armor. Your daughter does. The statement landed like a punch. Isabella felt tears burn behind her eyes. She was so tired, so endlessly, hopelessly tired. I don't know who you are, she whispered, but we can't. I have a place, safe, secure. No one touches you there, either of you. I don't accept charity. Then we'll call it an exchange. You're a nurse. I have people who sometimes need medical attention without hospital paperwork. Isabella's jaw tightened. She knew what that meant. What kind of man would need that kind of help? No. Luca nodded once, accepting. He pulled a card from his coat pocket, held it out. When he comes back, and he will, call me. Isabella didn't take the card. Luca placed it on the hood of the nearest car and walked away, disappearing into the December darkness as quietly as he'd arrived. Sophia turned her face into Isabella's neck, and for the first time in 8 months, whispered a single word. Safe. Isabella closed her eyes and wept. Rafael came back 36 hours later. Isabella was loading Sophia into their decade-old Honda Civic when she saw him leaning against the driver's side door. 3 p.m. Broad daylight. He didn't even care who saw anymore. Thought about what I said, Issa? His smile was all teeth, no warmth. About how we're a family. How Sophia needs her father figure. You're not her father. Isabella's hands shook as she buckled Sophia's car seat. And you never will be. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise. Never, where it would show. Don't make this difficult. Sophia's eyes went wide. Silent. Always silent. That's when the black Mercedes pulled up. Luca didn't bother with words this time. He simply opened his car door, stepped out, and Rafael's grip loosened immediately. The ex-military confidence evaporated when faced with someone who'd spent his entire life learning how to hurt people efficiently. Last warning, Luca said quietly. Walk away. Rafael's jaw clenched. He was bigger than Luca, probably. Stronger in a fair fight. But there was nothing fair about the way Luca moved. Economical, precise, like violence was a language he'd spoken since birth. This is harassment, Rafael tried. I'll call the cops. Please do. Luca's smile was terrible. I'm very curious what they'll say when they hear your name. Something passed between them. Some understanding that made Rafael's face go white. He released Isabella's wrist and backed toward his truck without another word. But Isabella saw his expression as he drove away. It wasn't defeat. It was calculation. He won't stop. Her voice cracked despite her best efforts. He never stops. Luca looked at her fully for the first time in daylight. She was beautiful in the way of women who'd forgotten they were. Exhausted, wearing yesterday's scrubs, dark circles under hazel eyes that had once probably sparkled. Her shoulder-length brown hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was too thin, the kind of thin that came from feeding your child before yourself. Then we make him stop. He opened his car's rear door. Get in, both of you. I have a car, which he knows, which he can follow. Get in. Isabella wanted to argue, but Sophia was already reaching toward the Mercedes, small hand stretching out like she recognized safety when she saw it. Isabella broke. The penthouse in River North was everything their fourth-floor walk-up in Pilsen wasn't. Warm, clean, silent except for the soft hum of expensive heating. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago River. The water dark and sleek beneath December's gray sky. White leather furniture, marble countertops, a kitchen bigger than their entire apartment. Sophia's fingers dug into Isabella's shoulder as they stepped inside. The little girl was overwhelmed, shrinking against her mother's side. Guest room is down that hall, Luca said, shrugging off his coat. Beneath it, he wore a black dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. A platinum watch caught the light on his wrist. Bathroom attached. I stocked basic supplies, but make a list of what you need. Isabella's pride flared hot and immediate. I can't. Yes, you can. He pulled a bottle of water from the refrigerator, set it on the counter. You'll work off the debt. I meant what I said. I have people who need medical care quietly. You provide it. We're even. That's illegal. So is breaking a restraining order. His dark eyes met hers. I'm not a good man, Isabella. I won't pretend to be. But I keep my word, and my word right now is that Rafael doesn't touch you again. By doing what? Killing him? The question hung in the air. Luca didn't flinch. If necessary. No. Isabella stepped forward, Sophia still clinging to her. I won't let Sophia grow up thinking violence is how you solve problems. I did that with Rafael, and look where... Her voice caught. If you kill him, we leave, immediately. Something shifted in Luca's expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. Then how do you want me to handle it? Legally, properly, I want him arrested with evidence that sticks. She lifted her chin. Or I walk out that door right now. Luca studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. Fine, legally. And I pay rent. I'll work extra shifts. You're already working yourself to death. That's not your concern. It is, if you collapse from exhaustion. He crossed his arms. Take the room. Rest. We'll negotiate terms tomorrow. Isabella wanted to keep fighting. But Sophia's weight in her arms was getting heavier, and her own legs felt like water. She hadn't slept more than 4 hours in 3 days. 1 week, she said finally. Trial period. If this doesn't feel safe, you leave. No arguments. Luca gestured toward the hallway. The door locks from inside. Code is 1127. Julia's birthday. Who's... My sister. His voice went flat. She's dead. Isabella didn't ask more questions. The guest room was larger than their apartment's living room and bedroom, combined. A king-sized bed with white linens, a dresser, a chair by the window. Everything spotless and impersonal, like a luxury hotel. Sophia's eyes were huge as she took it in, her small hand gripping the worn teddy bear she'd carried since birth. Isabella set her daughter down gently. It's okay, querida. We're safe here. Sophia looked at her mother, then toward the closed door, waiting for the yelling to start, the crashes, the sound of fists on flesh. But there was only silence. Isabella knelt, bringing herself to Sophia's eye level. I know you're scared. I am too. But that man, Luca, he's not like Rafael. Do you understand? Sophia didn't respond. She hadn't responded to anything in months. The therapist said it was selective mutism, brought on by trauma. She could speak. She chose not to. Except, she'd whispered safe 2 nights ago. 1 word, the first in so long. Let's get you ready for bed, okay? As Isabella helped Sophia into her faded pink pajamas, the ones with the hole in the knee, she heard movement in the main room. Quiet footsteps, the refrigerator opening and closing. Normal domestic sounds that felt foreign after months of walking on eggshells, waiting for Rafael's rage. When she tucked Sophia into the massive bed, the little girl looked impossibly small against the white pillows. Her brown curls spread like a halo. Her bear clutched tight. Sleep, mina fila. I'll be right here. Isabella lay down beside her daughter, still in her scrubs too, exhausted to change. The mattress was obscenely comfortable. The room warm. Safe. For the first time in 8 months, they both fell asleep before dark. Luca stood in his living room, staring at the closed guest room door. He'd killed 17 men in his 35 years, 3 with his bare hands. He'd broken bones, extracted information, done things that would make normal people vomit. Violence was a tool he wielded with the same efficiency as breathing, but that little girl's silence cut, deeper than any knife. She looked exactly like Julia at that age, same brown curls, same wide, terrified eyes, same way of shrinking into herself, trying to disappear. He'd failed Julia, arrived 30 minutes too late to her boyfriend's apartment, found her unconscious on the floor, skull fractured, never to wake again. She died 3 days later without ever opening her eyes. Marco had beaten her for 2 hours before Luca's call scared him into running. 2 hours. While Luca was across town, handling business for his father. He'd found Marco 6 months later. It had taken 4 days for Marco to die. Luca made sure of that, but it didn't bring Julia back. Now here was another little girl, another woman drowning in fear. And Luca had the power to help, if he could figure out how to do it without becoming the monster that Mother was terrified he already was. His phone buzzed. Marco's name flashed. I want everything on Rafael Mendez. Military record, financial history, known. Associates, parking tickets, everything. And I want it by morning. Boss, that's by morning, Marco. He ended the call and walked to his bedroom. The apartment was silent except for the soft hum of the city outside. No crying child, no terrified woman, just the weight of a promise he'd made to a ghost 16 years ago. Never again. Never another Julia. He intended to keep it. Isabella woke to sunlight. Actual sunlight. Not the gray, filtered kind that squeezed through their apartments. Barred window. But golden morning light streaming across clean floors. For 3 disorienting seconds, she forgot where she was. Then Sophia's small weight against her side brought it rushing back. The penthouse. Luca Rossi. The mafia underboss who'd rescued them twice and terrified her completely. Sophia was already awake, sitting up in bed with her bear, staring at the unfamiliar room. Her brown eyes tracked every shadow, every corner, hyper-vigilant, always watching for danger. Morning, querida, Isabella whispered, smoothing her daughter's curls. Let's find some breakfast. The main living area was empty. A note sat on the kitchen counter in sharp, precise handwriting. Working. Back by noon. Coffee's fresh. Help yourself to anything. Isabella's pride prickled immediately. She didn't want to help herself to anything. But Sophia was tugging her toward the refrigerator, curiosity overcoming fear for once. Inside, eggs, milk, fresh fruit, bread, juice. More food than they'd had in, months. Isabella made scrambled eggs and toast, her hands shaking slightly as she used someone else's expensive pans. Sophia ate slowly, carefully, like she was afraid the food might disappear. They were finishing when the door opened. Luca stepped inside carrying a large shopping bag. He changed clothes, dark jeans, black sweater, still managing to look like he could kill someone efficiently at a moment's notice. His eyes went immediately to Sophia, then Isabella. You're up. We don't sleep. Past 7, Isabella said, more defensive than necessary. I have a shift at... You called in sick. Her spine stiffened. Excuse me? I had someone contact the hospital. You're taking a personal week. He set the bag on the counter. You haven't taken a day off in 14 months, according to your supervisor. She approved it immediately. Isabella stood so fast her chair scraped. You have no right. I have every right to make sure you don't collapse. His voice stayed calm. Infuriatingly calm. When's the last time you slept more than 4 hours? Ate 3 meals in one day? That's none of your... It is if you're staying here. He pulled items from the bag. Children's clothes. Small sizes. Pink and purple. For Sophia. I guessed. But if they don't fit, there's a receipt. Isabella stared at the clothes. Good quality. Warm. The kind she couldn't afford even on sale. Her throat tightened. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's basic decency. Luca's jaw tightened. That coat she was wearing had holes. It's December in Chicago. I'm her mother. I provide... Barely. The word landed like a slap. Because you're drowning, and too proud to admit it. The truth of it hit harder than any of Rafael's fists. Isabella felt tears burn behind her eyes. She turned away, gripping the counter, willing herself not to break. Sophia slid off her chair. She walked past her mother, past the invisible line she usually never crossed with strangers, and stopped directly in front of Luca. Then she reached up and touched his hand. Luca froze. The terrifying underboss, the man who'd made Rafael flee twice, went absolutely still as a 4-year-old's tiny fingers wrapped around 2 of his. Sophia looked up at him with those enormous brown eyes. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. Something cracked in Luca's expression, just for a second. Then he crouched down, bringing himself to her level. Hi, Sophia. His voice gentled completely. You like the color purple? Sophia nodded. Tiny movement. Good. I got you a purple jacket. He pulled it from the bag. Soft fleece, warm lining. Can I help you try it on? She released his hand, turned around. Let him slip the jacket over her small shoulders. It fit perfectly. Isabella watched, her heart doing something painful in her chest. This dangerous man, kneeling on his expensive floor, buttoning a child's coat with hands that had probably broken bones. He caught her staring. We need to set ground rules. I already told you. I know. No violence in front of Sophia. Legal resolution only. He stood, and the gentleness evaporated back into controlled power. Here are mine. You don't leave this building without telling me where you're going. You don't answer your phone if Rafael calls, and you let me know immediately if anything feels wrong. I'm not a prisoner. No, you're a guest who's in danger. His dark eyes held hers. I can't protect you if you don't let me. I don't need a protector. I need... Her voice cracked. I need him arrested. With evidence, like you promised. Already working on it. I have people gathering documentation of every restraining order violation, every hospital visit, every police report you filed. He pulled out his phone, showed her a file. Pages of data. My lawyer's building a case that'll put him away for years. Isabella's hands trembled as she looked at the screen. How did you get all this so fast? I'm very good at finding information. He pocketed the phone. But it takes time to make it stick legally. Which means you stay here, stay safe, until it's done. And if I refuse, then you're gambling with your daughter's life. His voice went deadly quiet. Is your pride worth that? The question hung in the air like a blade. Isabella looked at Sophia, now sitting on the floor examining her new jacket. So small. So fragile. Fine, she whispered. But I work. I pay my own way. You start Monday. One of my men needs stitches from a legitimate workplace. Accident. No questions asked, just clean medical care. I'll send you details. It felt like selling her soul. But what choice did she have? The days developed a strange rhythm. Luca left early, returned late. Isabella cleaned obsessively despite his protests, unable to feel comfortable accepting help. Sophia explored the penthouse in careful increments, her bear always clutched tight. On the third evening, Luca brought home a children's memory game. My sister loved these, he said, setting it on the coffee table. Can I show you? Sophia looked at her mother. Isabella nodded. They sat on the floor, this dangerous man and this silent child, flipping cards. Luca matched them slowly, deliberately, letting Sophia win. He didn't push her to speak, didn't ask questions, just played. And Sophia, after 20 minutes, smiled. It was small, barely there, but real. Isabella stood frozen in the kitchen, watching this impossible scene. Her daughter hadn't smiled in 8 months, hadn't trusted anyone, except her mother since Rafael. But here she was, sitting cross-legged across from a mafia underboss, carefully matching cartoon animals. Luca caught Isabella staring again. His expression shifted. Something almost vulnerable flickering across his features before the mask slammed back down. She's good at this, he said quietly. She used to talk all the time. Isabella's voice was barely audible. Before Rafael, she'd narrate everything she did, ask a million questions. She will again. How? Do you know? Because she's stronger than what hurt her. His dark eyes found hers across the room. Like her mother. The words hit differently than expected. Not condescending, not pitying, just honest. Isabella turned away before he could see the tears. On the 5th night, she woke to Sophia's scream. Isabella bolted upright, heart slamming. Sophia thrashed in the bed beside her, sobbing in her sleep. No, por favor. No machuca a mamãe. Don't hurt Mommy. Isabella gathered her daughter, close, whispering reassurances, but Sophia was locked in the nightmare. Her small body shook violently. The bedroom door opened. Luca stood in the doorway in sleep pants and nothing else, chest bare, hair disheveled. He'd clearly run. What happened? Nightmare. She has them. Isabella's voice broke. She has them every night. He stepped into the room without asking permission, moved to the bed. Can I try something? Isabella was too desperate to refuse. Luca sat on the edge of the mattress, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Sophia, you're safe. No one's hurting Mommy. She's right here. Can you hear her breathing? Sophia's sobs quieted slightly. That's right. Listen, she's safe. You're safe. This is the safe place, remember? Slowly, terribly slowly, Sophia's eyes opened, unfocused, terrified. Then they found Luca's face. Safe, he repeated. Always safe here. Sophia's breathing evened out. She didn't speak, but her small hand reached out and grabbed Luca's wrist. He didn't move, barely seemed to breathe. Just sat there, this violent man, letting a traumatized child anchor herself to his pulse. I've got you, he murmured. Both of you. Nothing gets past me. And Isabella, watching him in the dim light, started to believe him. Isabella found the photograph by accident. It was late afternoon, 8 days into their stay. Sophia was napping, the first time she'd slept during daylight hours without nightmares. And Isabella had been looking for the thermostat. The penthouse was enormous, with rooms Luca never mentioned. She opened the wrong door. The room was a home office, dark wood desk, leather chair, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. And on the desk, face down in a way that felt deliberate, a silver frame. She knew she shouldn't touch it. She touched it anyway. The photograph showed a teenage boy and a young girl. The boy was maybe 19, all sharp angles and defensive posture, arms slung protectively around the girl's shoulders. She was 14, or 15, all smiles and long dark hair, holding up a birthday cake with 16 candles. The boy was unmistakably Luca, younger, leaner, but the same intense dark eyes. The girl... Isabella's breath caught. The girl looked exactly like Sophia. Same brown curls, same bright, trusting eyes, same dimpled smile. I keep it face down because looking at it hurts. Isabella spun. Luca stood in the doorway, still in his work clothes, dark suit, white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. His expression was unreadable, but tension radiated from every line of his body. I'm sorry. I was looking for... I know, it's fine. He stepped into the room, took the frame from her hands gently, stared at it for a long moment. Julia, my baby sister. She died 16 years ago. The grief in his voice was old but raw, like a wound that never quite healed. Luca, her boyfriend killed her. The words came flat, emotionless, the tone of someone who'd told this story too many times in his own head. Beat her, unconscious while I was across town. Fractured her skull. She lasted 3 days in a coma before... His jaw clenched. I was supposed to protect her. That was my job. Older brother. I failed. Isabella's throat tightened. You were 19. You couldn't have... I could have... His knuckles whitened around the frame. She called me, 30 minutes before it happened. Said Marco was acting strange, asked if I could come over. I told her I was busy, that I'd call her later. He set the photograph, back down, face down again, like he couldn't bear to see it. I never got the chance. The silence stretched between them. Outside, Chicago's late afternoon traffic hummed distantly. Inside, the weight of 16 years of guilt pressed down like physical force. When I heard Sophia's voice on that audio, Luca continued, quieter now, it was like hearing Julia again. Same age, same terror. And I swore. His voice cracked almost imperceptibly. I swore I'd never let another child go through what she did. Never. Isabella understood then. The immediate response. The fierce protection. The way he looked at Sophia like she was something precious and breakable. That's why you have a rule, she said softly. Why you don't hurt women and children. It's not about morality. He turned to face her fully. It's about the fact that I see her every time. Every single time. And I can't. He stopped. Breathed. I can't fail again. The vulnerability in that admission hit Isabella like a wave. This dangerous man, this underboss who made grown men afraid, was terrified of one thing: being too late. She wanted to reach out, touch his arm, offer comfort. But the space between them felt vast, filled with everything he was and everything she feared. What happened to Marco? The question came before she could stop it. Luca's expression went cold, completely, terrifyingly cold. I found him, 6 months later. And he died slowly. No remorse, no hesitation. Very slowly. The confession should have terrified her, should have sent her running. But all Isabella felt was a sick sense of satisfaction, and that terrified her more than anything Luca could do. You killed him. Yes. And you'd kill Rafael, if I let you. Without hesitation. His dark eyes met hers. But I gave you my word. Legal resolution. I keep my promises. Even when it's harder? Especially then. Isabella looked at him. Really looked. Saw the man who knelt on floors to play memory games with traumatized children. Who'd sat motionless for an hour while Sophia gripped his wrist during a nightmare. Who kept his sister's photograph face down because the grief was too much to witness every day. He was dangerous. Violent. Everything she should run from. But he was also the only person who'd made Sophia smile in 8 months. I'm scared of you, she admitted quietly. Not because I think you'll hurt us, but because I'm starting to trust you. And I don't know if I can survive being wrong again. Something shifted in Luca's face. Not quite softening, but opening. You're not wrong. Not about this. How can you be sure? Because I've spent 16 years learning exactly who I am. I'm a killer, Isabella. I'm not going to lie about that, but I've never once hurt someone who didn't deserve it, and I never will. He stepped closer. Not threatening, careful. You and Sophia? You're the first good thing I've protected instead of avenged. I'm not letting anything happen to you. The intensity in his voice made her believe him. Against all logic, against every warning screaming in her head, she believed him. Rafael's going to escalate, she whispered. He always does. And when he does, I'll handle it, the right way. Luca's jaw tightened. Even if every instinct I have is screaming to handle it my way. Why? Why does it matter how he stopped as long as he stopped? Because Sophia is watching. His voice dropped. And if she sees me become a monster to protect her, I'm just teaching her that monsters are the solution. She deserves better than that. Isabella's eyes burned with tears. This man, this broken, violent, grieving man, understood her daughter better than she dared hope. Thank you, she managed, for trying, for... Her voice broke. For seeing her as more than just a victim to save. She's not a victim. Luca's expression gentled slightly. She's a survivor, just like her mother. The words settled between them like a promise. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Isabella found Luca sitting on the balcony despite the December cold. He looked up when she slid the door open. "You should be sleeping." "So should you." She wrapped her borrowed sweater tighter. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you really think Sophia will talk again? Or are you just saying that to make me feel better?" Luca was quiet for a moment. Then, "My sister stopped talking for 3 months after our mother died. Just shut down completely. Everyone said she'd never be the same." "What changed?" "Time, safety. Someone who didn't push but didn't give up either." His eyes found hers in the dim light. "She came back when she was ready. Sophia will too. And if she doesn't, then we love her exactly as she is." He said it with such certainty, such absolute conviction, that Isabella felt something crack open in her chest. "We?" The word hung in the cold air. Luca stood, moved toward her, stopped just close enough that she could feel his warmth against the winter. Chill. "I meant what I said. I'm not letting anything happen to either of you. That includes the future." "You can't promise that. You don't know. I know that you haven't let yourself trust anyone since Rafael. I know you're terrified that I'm just another dangerous man waiting to hurt you. And I know." His voice roughened. "I know I'm falling for both of you, and that scares me more than anything I've ever faced." Isabella's breath stopped. "You don't mean that." "I never say things I don't mean." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You make me want to be better. Sophia makes me believe I can be. That's not something I'm willing to lose." His hand was warm against her cheek. Gentle. Nothing like Rafael's touch, which had always been about control. This was a question. An offer. Isabella leaned into it before she could overthink, before fear could override hope. And Luca, this dangerous man with blood on his hands and grief in his heart, held her face like she was something precious, irreplaceable. "I won't let you down," he whispered. For the first time in years, Isabella wanted to believe in promises again. The call came at 2:17 a.m., 11 days after they'd moved in. Isabella's phone lit up the darkness. Unknown number. Her stomach dropped immediately. Rafael had used burner phones before when she blocked his main line. She answered without thinking. "Hello?" Heavy breathing. Then his voice, slurred and venomous. "Found out where you're hiding, Isa. Real fancy place. River North, penthouse. Must be nice, whoring yourself out to afford that." Her blood went cold. "How did you—" "I've got friends everywhere, baby. Friends who followed you from the hospital. Friends who know exactly which building, which floor." A pause. Cruel. "Friends who know what time that little bitch goes to sleep." Isabella's hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. "Rafael, if you come near—" "What? You gonna call the cops? Your boyfriend gonna protect you?" Laughter, harsh and brittle. "I was special forces, Isa. I know 17 ways to get into a secured building, and when I do—" The phone was taken from her hand. Luca stood beside the bed in sleep pants, jaw clenched, eyes absolutely lethal. He'd materialized silently, the way he always moved. He pressed the phone to his ear. Rafael Mendez. His voice was conversational, pleasant even, which somehow made it worse. "You have 10 seconds to hang up and disappear, or I will find you and make you regret every decision you've made since birth." Static. Then Rafael's voice, trying for bravado. "Big words. You think I'm scared of—" You should be. Luca's tone never changed. Still pleasant, still calm. Because I know you're calling from Harry's bar on West Division. I know you're 3 whiskeys deep. I know you're sitting in the back corner, wearing your old army jacket. And I know... His voice dropped to something sub-zero. I know exactly how long it'll take my people to reach you. 4 minutes. Want to test it? Silence. Then the call disconnected. Luca handed Isabella her phone back. Pack essentials. We're leaving. What? No. He knows this location. It's compromised. You said this place was safe. It was. Until he got someone to follow you. Luca was already moving, pulling clothes from his closet with sharp, efficient movements. I have another property. More secure. We go now. Isabella's mind spun. How did he even find us? Probably bribed a hospital security guard to watch for you. Followed at a distance. I should have anticipated. He stopped. Breathed. My mistake. I'm fixing it. Sophia appeared in the bedroom doorway, clutching her bear. Her eyes were huge, terrified. She'd heard everything. Luca saw her and immediately dropped to one knee. Hey, sweetheart. We're going on an adventure. Is that okay? Sophia's lower lip trembled. I promise you're safe. Your mom's safe. But we need to be very quiet and very quick. Can you do that for me? The little girl nodded, mute as always. They were in Luca's car within 12 minutes. The safe house was in Oak Park, disguised as a modest family home on a quiet suburban street. Nothing like the penthouse, smaller, older. But when Luca disabled the security system, Isabella saw the reinforced door, bulletproof windows, cameras covering every angle. This was my grandfather's house, Luca explained, carrying Sophia inside. The little girl had fallen asleep against his shoulder in the car. He was paranoid, built it like a fortress. The interior was dated, 1970s wood paneling, floral wallpaper, but clean. A small living room, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen with outdated appliances. It felt more like a prison than the penthouse had. Luca settled Sophia on the couch, covered her with a blanket, then turned to Isabella. I need to handle this. Handle what? Rafael. He crossed a line. The way he said it made her stomach clench. Luca, you promised. Legally. He threatened your daughter. In detail. His eyes went dark. That changes things. No, it doesn't. Isabella stepped between him and the door. You gave me your word. My word doesn't cover him putting both of you in active danger. So what's your plan? Go to that bar and beat him to death in the parking lot? Luca's silence was answer enough. And then what? Isabella's voice rose. You get arrested? We're left alone again? Sophia loses the first person besides me she's trusted in. Months? I won't get arrested. You don't know that. She gripped his arms, forcing him to look at her. Please, please don't do this. Not like this. Then how? The question came out strangled. How do I protect you without... The legal way, like you promised. Build the case. Get him arrested properly. Her eyes burned. I know it's slower. I know it's harder. But it's the only way that doesn't make you into what I'm afraid you are. The words hung between them. Brutal. Honest. Luca's jaw, clenched so hard she could see the muscle jump. You're asking me to let him walk around free while... I'm asking you to trust the system you said you'd use. Isabella's voice softened. I'm asking you to be the man Sophia thinks you are. Something broke in his expression. He looked toward the couch where Sophia slept, small and vulnerable, trust written in every line of her sleeping face. If something happens to either of you while I'm playing by the rules, then we deal with it together. Isabella stepped closer. But you don't get to make me complicit in murder and call it protection. That's not protection. That's just replacing one nightmare with another. Luca closed his eyes, breathed. When he opened them again, the killing intent had banked. Not gone, but controlled. Fine. We do this your way. His voice was rough, but he doesn't get another chance to get close. Understood? Understood. He pulled out his phone, dialed. Marco, I need round-the-clock surveillance on Rafael Mendez. Every move he makes, every person he talks to, every time he breathes wrong, I want documentation. Legal documentation. A pause. Because we're building a case that'll bury him. No bodies, no accidents, prison. He hung up and looked at Isabella. Happy? No, but grateful. She touched his hand. Thank you. For choosing differently. I'm not doing it for me. His fingers threaded through hers. I'm doing it because you're right. And because losing you would hurt worse than letting him live. The admission hung in the air between them. Outside, dawn was breaking over Oak Park. Inside, Sophia stirred on the couch, mumbling in her sleep. Not a nightmare, just dreams. Luca squeezed Isabella's hand once. Get some rest. I'll take first watch. You need sleep too. I'll sleep when he's behind bars. He kissed her forehead. Brief, gentle, nothing like the dangerous man he could be. Go. I've got this. And despite everything, Isabella believed him. Rafael made his next move 3 days later. Isabella was leaving Northwestern Memorial after her first shift back. Luca had finally agreed to let her return to work with 2 of his men shadowing at a distance. The parking garage was well lit, secure. Rafael was waiting anyway. He stepped out from behind a concrete pillar, and Isabella's heart stopped. He looked worse than she'd ever seen him. Unshaven, wild-eyed, reeking of alcohol even from 10 feet away. Thought you could hide. His voice slurred. Thought your gangster boyfriend would protect you. Rafael, there's a restraining order. If you... Fuck the restraining order. He lurched forward. You're mine, Isa. Mine. That kid is mine. You don't get to just... Sophia is not yours. Isabella's voice stayed steady, despite the terror clawing up her throat. She never was. I raised her for a year. You beat me in front of her. The words exploded out. You gave her nightmares and trauma and made her stop speaking. You don't get to claim her. Rafael's face twisted. He reached for her. Isabella grabbed the pepper spray Luca had insisted she carry and aimed. But before she could press the trigger, Rafael's hand was wrenched backward. Luca appeared like a shadow made solid, twisting Rafael's arm behind his back with brutal efficiency. Rafael screamed. One more step toward her, Luca said quietly, and I break every bone in this arm. Do it, Rafael spat. I'll sue. I'll press charges. Good. Luca's smile was terrible. Because there are 17 cameras in this garage, and every single one just recorded you violating a restraining order and attempting assault. He twisted harder. Rafael's knees buckled. My lawyer's going to love this. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. You called the cops? Rafael's eyes went wild. The second my man radioed that you were here. Luca released him, shoving him forward. You're done, Rafael. Completely done. 2 police cars screeched into the garage. 4 officers emerged, hands on weapons. That's him, one of Luca's men called out, stepping from the shadows. Rafael Mendez, active restraining order violation, attempted assault. We've got it all on camera. The officers moved in. Rafael fought, screaming obscenities, but they had him in cuffs within 30 seconds. One of the officers approached Isabella. Ma'am, are you all right? Did he hurt you? No, Her voice shook. I'm fine. We'll need a statement. She'll come to the station tomorrow, Luca interjected, smoothly. She's had a shock. Let her get home first. The officer looked between them, clearly recognizing Luca, clearly knowing exactly who he was. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. She'll be there. They watched Rafael being loaded into the police car, still screaming threats. Isabella's legs finally gave out. Luca caught her, held her upright. "I've got you." "You didn't kill him." She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. "You could have. I saw it in your eyes. But you didn't." "No." His arms tightened around her. "Because you asked me not to. And because Sofia deserves to see him in a cage, not a grave." Isabella buried her face in his chest and let herself break. All the fear, all the months of terror, pouring out in racking sobs. Luca held her through all of it. Didn't shush her, didn't tell her it was over, just held her and let her feel everything she'd been too afraid to feel. When she finally quieted, he spoke against her hair. "He's going to prison, Isabella. Real prison. The evidence we've compiled, the photographs, the hospital records, tonight's video. He's done." "For how long?" 5 to 8 years minimum. More if my lawyer does his job right. 8 years. Sofia would be 12, almost a teenager, safe. "Thank you," Isabella whispered, "for doing it this way." "Thanks, Sofia." His voice roughened. "She's the one who made me want to be better." They stood there in the garage's harsh fluorescent light, holding each other while Chicago's night swallowed another predator. And for the first time in a year, Isabella let herself believe in safety. Rafael's lawyer got him out on bail in 48 hours. Luca received the call at 6:15 a.m. Marco's voice was tight with tension. "Boss, he posted bond. Judge Hendricks. Rafael's cousin works in the DA's office. They pulled strings." Luca closed his eyes, felt every muscle in his body coil with the need to fix this the old way. "Where is he now?" "Unknown. He left the courthouse 20 minutes ago. We lost him, in traffic." "Find him. Now." He hung up and turned to find Isabella standing in the bedroom doorway, Sofia in her arms. She'd heard everything. "He's out." Her voice was flat. "Dead. Temporarily. The trial's still happening. This just means he's coming for us." Isabella's grip on Sofia tightened. The little girl's face was buried in her mother's neck, small body tense. "You know he is." Luca did know. Men like Rafael didn't accept defeat. They escalated. And now he'd had 48 hours in jail to nurse his rage into something poisonous. "I won't let him touch you. You can't be everywhere." Isabella's eyes were hollow. "We can't live like this. Running, hiding, waiting for him to..." Sofia's small hand touched her mother's face. The gesture was deliberate, comforting. A child trying to soothe her mother's fear. It broke something in the room. "Listen to me." Luca stepped closer. "I have 8 men watching this house. Cameras on every approach. He won't get within a block. He got within 10 feet of me in a secured parking garage. The accusation landed. Fair. Deserved. I know." Luca's jaw clenched. "I underestimated him. I won't again. What if underestimating him gets Sofia killed?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Luca looked at the little girl. Brown curls messy from sleep. Bear clutched tight. Watching him with those enormous eyes that trusted him completely. He'd failed Julia because he'd been too slow. He would not fail Sofia. "Then I end this." The deep words came out cold. Final. "Tonight. Permanently." "Luca, no." He forfeited the right to a legal resolution when he made bail and disappeared. Luca's voice hardened. "You wanted me to try it your way. I did. The system failed. Now we do it mine." "Please." Isabella's voice cracked. "Please don't make me watch you become what I've been running from. I'm nothing like him. Aren't you? Tears spilled down her cheeks. Violence is violence. Murder is murder. If you kill him, how are you? Different? Because I'm protecting you. He was destroying you. And teaching Sophia that the answer to every problem is blood? Isabella shook her head. I can't let her grow up thinking that's love. I won't. Before Luca could respond, his phone rang. The hospital's main line. He answered. Rossi. Mr. Rossi, this is Northwestern Memorial Security. There's a situation in the ER. A man matching the description you gave us. Rafael Mendez. He's here. He's demanding to see Isabella Santos, claiming parental rights to her daughter. He's armed. Security is attempting to de-escalate, but Luca was moving before the sentence finished. Call the police. Keep him contained. I'm 10 minutes out. He grabbed his keys, his gun, shrugged into his shoulder holster with practiced speed. Isabella grabbed his arm. What are you doing? Ending this. His eyes were absolutely cold. Stay here. Door stays locked. Do not leave this house. Luca, if you kill him, then I kill him. He kissed her, forehead, hard and quick. But you and Sophia live. That's all that matters. He was out the door before she could stop him. Northwestern Memorial's ER was on lockdown when Luca arrived. Security had Rafael cornered in the far corner of the waiting room. He'd barricaded himself behind overturned chairs, gun visible in his waistband, screaming about his rights as a father. Luca moved through the chaos like smoke. Badge flashed to security, authority that came from money and fear and connections. Most people didn't question. Let me handle this. Sir, he's armed. We've got police en route. I said let me handle it. The security guard looked at Luca's face and stepped back. Rafael saw him coming. His eyes went wild. There he is, the mobster fuck who stole my family. Sophia isn't yours. Luca's voice carried across the room, calm, controlled. She never was. I raised her. You traumatized her. Luca stepped closer, hands visible, weaponless. You beat her mother in front of her. You gave a 4-year-old PTSD. You're nothing but a coward with a gun. Rafael's hand moved toward his waistband. Don't. Luca's voice dropped to absolute zero. Because if you pull that weapon, I will put you down before your hand clears leather, and no jury in the world will convict me for it. You think you're better than me? Rafael's face twisted with rage and desperation. You're a fucking criminal. A killer. Yes. Luca nodded once. I am. But I've never once hurt a child. Never beat a woman. Never mistaken terror for respect. He took another step. You want to fight someone? Fight me. Right here. Right now. No guns. Just fists. Rafael's hand shook on the gun. You'd love that, wouldn't you? Give you an excuse to... I don't need an excuse. I need you to understand something. Luca's voice gentled almost imperceptibly. You've already lost. Isabella doesn't love you. Sophia is terrified of you. And no amount of threats or violence is going to change that. She's mine. She's a child. The words cracked like a whip. A traumatized, scared little girl who just wants to feel safe. And you're the monster in her nightmares. Something in Rafael's expression crumpled. Not remorse. Just the realization that he'd lost. His hand moved toward the gun again. Time slowed. Luca could disarm him. Could break his wrist, his jaw, leave him bleeding on the linoleum. Could pull his own weapon and end this the way he'd ended 17 other problems. But then he heard it. Small voice, crystal clear despite the chaos. Tio Luca? He turned. Sophia stood at the ER entrance, Isabella restraining her, trying to pull her back. But the little girl was staring directly at Luca with those enormous brown eyes. And she spoke. Full sentence. First one in 8 months. Tio Luca, don't hurt him, please. You're not like him. You're good." The words hit like a sledgehammer to the chest. Luca looked at this tiny child, who'd witnessed her mother beaten, who'd gone silent from trauma, who had every reason to want Rafael destroyed, begging him to choose mercy. He looked at Rafael, still reaching for his gun. He looked at Sofia, who believed in him. The choice wasn't even hard. Luca raised his hands, stepped back. "Rafael, put the gun down. This doesn't end how you think it does." "Like hell!" Police flooded through the entrance. 6 officers, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Rafael spun toward them, gun half drawn. Luca moved on instinct, not toward Rafael, but toward Sofia. He covered the distance in 3 strides, scooped the little girl into his arms, shielded her with his body as gunshots cracked through the air. 3 shots. Rafael went down. Non-lethal. Shoulder and leg. He'd survive. Luca pressed Sofia's face into his shoulder, blocking her view. "Don't look, sweetheart. Don't look." But Sofia's small hand patted his cheek. "You didn't hurt him. You chose good." And Luca, this man who'd killed without hesitation, who'd built a life on violence, felt tears burn behind his eyes. "Yeah, baby, I chose good." 6 hours later, in a private hospital room where Rafael lay handcuffed to the bed under police guard, the DA arrived with paperwork. Assault with a deadly weapon, kidnapping attempt, violation of a restraining order, unlawful possession of a firearm. She looked at Luca and Isabella grimly. "With the evidence you've compiled, and today's incident, he's looking at 15 to 20 years. No bail this time." Isabella sagged against Luca, finally letting herself break. Rafael was awake, groggy from painkillers, glaring at them with impotent rage. "This isn't over, Isa. When I get out, you won't." Luca's voice was quiet, certain. "Because I'm adopting Sofia legally, marrying her mother, and by the time you're released, we'll be so far beyond your reach, you'll be nothing but a bad memory." Rafael lunged against the handcuffs, failed, collapsed back, defeated. They left him there, screaming threats that no one believed anymore. Outside in the hallway, Sofia reached for Luca. He lifted her into his arms, and she wrapped herself around him like a small koala. Then she spoke again, clearly, perfectly. "Can we go home now? I want to go home." Isabella's hand covered her mouth, tears streaming. Luca kissed Sofia's forehead. "Yeah, sweetheart. We can go home." And for the first time, when he said home, he meant all 3 of them. 6 months later, the Oak Park house had transformed. The dated wood paneling remained, but Isabella had hung cheerful curtains in the windows. Sofia's drawings covered the refrigerator, no longer dark scribbles of fear, but bright crayon families with 3 people holding hands. The floral wallpaper in the living room was scheduled for replacement next month, but for now it was softened by photographs. Sofia's first day of pre-K, Isabella and Luca's quiet courthouse wedding, family dinners around the small kitchen table. It wasn't the penthouse. It wasn't glamorous or impressive, but it was theirs. Isabella stood at the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables for dinner, watching through the window as Luca pushed Sofia on the swing set he'd installed last month. The little girl shrieked with laughter. Actual laughter, loud and unrestrained, her brown curls flying in the September breeze. "Higher, Daddy, higher!" Daddy. She'd started calling him that 3 months ago. Luca had cried, actually cried, the first time. Now he answered to it like he'd been waiting his whole life, to hear it. The adoption had been finalized in July. Simple, quiet, legal. Sofia Rossi, their daughter in every way that mattered. Isabella's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, still flat, but not for long. 8 weeks. They'd tell Sofia soon. But for now, it was a secret wrapped in joy and terror and hope. The back door opened. Sophia ran in first, grass-stained and happy, clutching the worn teddy bear she still refused to sleep without. "Mama, I went so high. Almost touched the sky. I saw Mina Filia." Isabella knelt, brushing curls from her daughter's flushed face. "Why don't you go wash your hands? Dinner's almost ready." "Okay." Sophia disappeared toward the bathroom, chattering to herself about clouds and birds, and whether bears could swing. Luca leaned against the counter, watching Isabella with an expression that still made her breath catch. 6 months of living together, 4 months married, and he still looked at her like she was something miraculous. "She's happy." His voice was soft, odd. "She is." Isabella straightened, moved into his space, let herself be gathered into arms that had once terrified her and now felt like safety incarnate. "You made her happy. We made her happy." He kissed her temple. "How was your day?" "Long. 3 traumas in the ER, but I got to come home, so—" She smiled against his chest. "Worth it. You don't have to keep working the extra shifts. I know." She looked up at him. "But I want to. I'm good at what I do, and it matters." Luca's expression gentled. He'd learned not to fight her on this. Isabella Santos Rossi was not a woman who accepted handouts, even from her husband. She worked. She contributed. She maintained her independence even while accepting love. It was one of the 1,000 things he adored about her. Fair enough. He kissed her properly this time, slow and deep and full of promise. "But you're taking tomorrow off. Doctor's appointment, remember?" Isabella tensed slightly. "Hey." Luca's hand cupped her face. "Whatever the test says, we handle it together, okay?" She nodded, letting herself lean into his certainty. The pregnancy test had been positive, but the doctor's confirmation felt like making it real. Terrifyingly, beautifully real. Sophia's voice called from down the hall. "Mama! Daddy! Come see! I drawed us." They found her in her bedroom, the smaller of the two, painted pale purple at her request, filled with books and toys, and the kind of clutter that came from a child who felt safe enough to make messes. She held up a piece of construction paper. 4 stick figures, labels in Luca's careful handwriting. He'd been teaching her letters. Mama, Daddy, Sophia, and a 4th, smaller figure labeled Baby. Isabella's breath stopped. "What's this, Carita?" Sophia pointed proudly. "Our family! You and Daddy and me and the baby in your tummy." Luca's eyes widened. "Sophia, sweetheart, we didn't— I heard you talking last night, when you thought I was sleeping." Sophia looked between them, suddenly worried. "Are we not supposed to have a baby? Is it bad?" Isabella knelt, pulling her daughter close. "No, baby. It's not bad. It's wonderful. We were just waiting for the right time to tell you. So I can be a big sister." "Yes." Luca crouched beside them, completing the circle. "You're going to be the best big sister." Sophia threw her arms around both of them, squeezing tight. "I'm going to teach the baby everything. How to swing and draw and read and—" She pulled back, eyes wide with sudden concern. "Will the baby be scared like I was?" The question hit like a punch. Isabella's throat tightened, but Luca answered, calm and certain. "No, sweetheart, because this baby is going to grow up knowing they're loved from the very first day. No fear, no hurt, just family. Like me now? Exactly like you now." Sophia considered this, then nodded, satisfied. "Good, because being scared is really bad. I like happy better." "Me too," Luca whispered, his voice rough with emotion. They stayed like that. The 3 of them wrapped around each other on a purple carpet in a modest house in Oak Park, until dinner burned slightly, and Sofia complained she was hungry and real life resumed. But Isabella knew she'd remember this moment forever. This feeling of complete, improbable safety. Later that night, after Sofia was asleep, reading chapter books now, her therapist said it was part of reclaiming her voice. Isabella found Luca on the back porch. He was holding Julia's photograph, face up this time, looking at it without flinching. "I told her about Sofia today," he said quietly when Isabella sat beside him. "Told her I finally got it right, that I finally saved someone instead of arriving too late. She'd be proud of you." "I don't know about that." He set the photo down carefully. "I'm still not a good man, Isa. I still do things that would make you leave if you knew details." "I know more than you think." Isabella took his hand. "I know the Rossi. Family operates on both sides of the law. I know you've hurt people. I know you'll hurt more if they threaten us. And you're okay with that?" "I'm okay with you." She squeezed his fingers. "The whole you. Not the sanitized version. You chose Sofia over revenge. You chose restraint over violence when every instinct screamed the opposite. That's who you are when it matters." Luca pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "I don't deserve this. Either of you." "Maybe not." Isabella smiled, against his shoulder. "But you've got us anyway." They sat in the September darkness, listening to crickets and distant traffic, holding each other like lifelines. Inside, Sofia's nightlight glowed soft pink through her bedroom window. No more nightmares, no more silence. Just dreams and laughter, and the kind of childhood she deserved. Isabella thought about the voice message that had started everything. That accidental audio file sent to the wrong number by a terrified child who'd stopped speaking. The wrong number that had been exactly right. 3 months later, on Sofia's 5th birthday, she stood at the kitchen counter reading her new chapter book aloud, while Luca made pancakes and Isabella's pregnancy bump pressed against the table. "The bunny was scared of the dark," Sofia read carefully, sounding out each word. "But then his mama said, 'You are braver than you know.'" She looked up, beaming. "Like me, right, Daddy? I was scared, but now I'm brave." "The bravest." Luca flipped a pancake, shaped like a bear. "Way braver than me." "Nuh-uh. You're super brave. You protect everybody. Only the people I love." He met Isabella's eyes across the kitchen. "That's the only kind of protection that matters." Sofia went back to reading, voice strong and clear, filling the house with words. And Isabella, watching her husband make birthday pancakes while their daughter reclaimed her voice one syllable at a time, understood something fundamental. Redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about choosing differently when it counted. About letting love rewrite the ending you thought was inevitable. Luca Rossi had been a killer. Probably still was, in the shadows she didn't ask about. But he was also a father, who taught his daughter that being good was a choice you made every single day. And that was enough. Sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we expected. Sometimes they're the ones the world told us to fear. But maybe that's the point. Maybe love isn't about finding someone safe. It's about finding someone willing to become safe for you. Sofia's voice message went to the wrong number that December night. But it reached exactly the right person. A man who'd spent 16 years drowning in guilt, who'd built walls so high no one could reach him. Until a little girl's crying voice cracked those walls wide open and reminded him that strength isn't measured by how many enemies you destroy. It's measured by how fiercely you protect the ones who need you most. Rafael Mendez is serving 18 years in federal prison. He'll be released when Sofia is in her 20s, old enough to decide for herself if she ever wants to see him again. Luca suspects she won't. Some doors once closed stay closed. The Rossi family is still in the business. still dangerous, still feared. But now there's a swing set in the backyard of a modest house in Oak Park. Now there's laughter at the dinner table. Now there's a little girl who calls a mafia underboss daddy and believes completely that he hung the moon. And maybe, in the end, that's the greatest rebellion of all. Not violence, not power, but choosing love when everything in you was built for war. If this story touched something inside you, if you believe that even broken people can become whole when they find the right reason, leave a comment with your thoughts. We read every single one, and your words mean everything to us. Hit that like button to support stories about real redemption, messy love, and the kind of second chances that change everything. And subscribe, because we bring you new emotional journeys every day. Stories about people who choose to be better, even when it's harder. Before you go, check out the next video on screen, or explore our playlist for more tales of unexpected families, fierce protection, and love that rewrites every rule. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you for believing that everyone deserves a chance to choose differently. Good night. Stay safe, stay hopeful. And remember, sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right call.